Hello, puppies! You are welcome to General Studies class. I am Uncle Popo. Our subject for today is Social Studies. Let's do it the usual way we've been doing. Uncle Popo is here. I am also here. We are here together. 100% attention. 100% attention is what I need from you. Today, we are looking at housing. Housing. In last lesson, we discussed about housing. So we want to talk more about it today. Here we talked about different types of housing. We have mud house, the cement, bungalow, mansion, glass house, duplex. All these we discussed in last lesson. Today, we are moving further to discuss on housing. But before that, here are the learning objectives for today. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to list features of adequate housing. Features of adequate housing. Then you should be able to explain differences in the housing. Differences in the housing. And you should be able to state some reasons people are unable to own houses and the solution to this. All this is what we want to focus on for today. Features of adequate housing. Features of adequate housing. One of the features is, the first one is proper ventilation. What did I say? Proper ventilation. When we talk about ventilation, we are saying that house should have enough space for air to go in and move out. And it is advisable to have cross ventilation. Cross ventilation is you have your windows in your right-hand side and your left-hand side so that you have enough air in such house. That's the first one, proper ventilation. Then we move on to the second feature, which is strong structure. What did I say? Strong structure. Structure, the house should be very strong. Why? So that such house will not collapse. We've been hearing of cases of collapsed houses here and there. It's because of the structure. Some of those houses, the structures are not good enough. That is why those houses get collapsed. You can see from the picture here, see this kind of house. There's tendency that this one will collapse. You can see from the top here because it does not have strong structure. Look at this very fine house too. The structure is not strong enough. When the structure is not strong enough, such house will collapse. That's another feature. Let's look at another feature of adequate housing. The third one is the house should be well lighted. The house should be well lighted. That means such house should have electricity supply to lighten the house. Next is it should be spacious. It should be spacious. There should be enough space in the house. That's one of the features too. There should be enough space to play, to do some other things in the house. It's very, very important. And the rooms should be adequate to cater for the size of the family. The rooms should be adequate to cater for the size of the family. The number of the family should determine how the room will be. You don't create a very small room for a number of 6 or 7 families. Such room will be overcrowded and it is not good at all. So the number of the family should be considered in getting adequate housing. A good house should be able to meet the special needs of handicapped members of the family. A good house should be able to meet the special needs of handicapped members of the family. You can see from this diagram here, It's easy for somebody to climb the stairs here, but it will be very difficult for an handicapped person to do so. That is why a ramp is provided in this house. Such house consider handicap. So it's advisable to have adequate housing. You should also consider the handicap too. Now we move on to differences in the housing needs of urban and rural settlements. Differences in the housing needs of urban and rural settlements. When we talk about urban, we are referring to cities. When we talk about rural settlement, we are referring to the villages, urban and rural. Is that clear, pupils? Now let's look at the differences in the housing needs of urban and rural settlement. The first one is cost of land is cheaper in the rural areas. Cost of land is cheaper in the rural areas. In those villages, they have large areas of land, and to get land there is very, very, very cheap. Like I was told, how they get land in the olden days, that you will be asked to throw stone wherever your stone reaches. That's the large area of land you will acquire. So, and they may even ask you to bring 2 bags of yam to get land, or to bring a goat or a ram. That's how they do in the villages. So cost of land there in the rural area is very, very cheap. Another difference is availability of land is greater in rural areas. In rural areas, they have large areas of land. We may have few people living, and we have land everywhere. So availability of land is greater in the rural areas. Next is demand for housing is higher in urban areas, thereby making houses expensive. Demand for housing is higher in urban areas, thereby making houses expensive, like Lagos and other urban areas. The demand for housing, because the population of people living in Lagos is much, and we see how many people from different parts of the country and other cities coming down to Lagos. So people would demand more for houses. So that is why the demand for housing in Lagos is higher. So it's creating a problem. Next is building materials are more available in urban areas. Building materials are more available in urban areas. We have many houses in urban areas. So because of that, building materials are available, unlike the rural areas, because we do have limited number of houses there. So we don't expect people selling the building materials to locate themselves there. So it's in urban area where you get most of the building materials available. Next is the houses in rural areas are simply constructed, unlike those in urban areas. The houses in rural areas are simply constructed, unlike those in urban areas. In rural areas, the way they construct their own houses is different from urban areas. In urban areas, you see, when we started types of houses, you saw different kinds of houses. Some you have not seen before. So all those kind of houses you can see in urban area. Like the model house you saw the other time that asked who would like to live there, and I believe none of you picked that. Such kind of house you can get in the rural areas. In rural areas, they just construct anyhow they like, but in urban area, they really concentrate much on the building, and they just don't build anyhow. We move on to the next is access to fund is easier in the urban areas. Access to fund is easier in urban areas. Here we have many companies, we have banks, and we have financial institutions that are ready to give loan to people, to provide houses for people. So it's very easy for somebody to build house because of the following availability. You can get access to funds from different banks to build house in urban area, unlike the rural areas. Reasons why many people do not own houses in Nigeria. Reasons why many people do not own houses in Nigeria. I know everybody will want to hear about this. And many people actually do not own houses in Nigeria because of the following reason we have shortlisted here. One, many people are jobless and as such could not afford to build houses. Many people are jobless and as such could not afford to build houses. A jobless man will not be thinking of how to build houses. The priorities of such person is how to feed himself. Then he can consider clothing himself. So thinking of building a house will be the last option because not even money to do that. So that's one of the reasons. The second one is building materials are too costly for many people to purchase. Building materials as of today is very, very expensive for people to purchase. If you don't have enough money, you cannot build a house, especially in urban areas. Let me even say in Lagos, the building materials alone is enough to keep you in one side. Another reason why many people do not own houses in Nigeria is it is not easy to obtain loans from banks. It is not easy at all to obtain loans from banks. Although I said before that we have many banks here that can give out loans, but to obtain such loan is not very easy. So it's a problem for people to get the loan. So that's another reason. Next is the cost of land is high, especially in urban areas. The cost of land is high, especially in urban areas. Yes, in urban area, in Lagos, VI, Lekki, Banana Island, the amount at which they sell land there is very expensive. Even the amount to buy land there, you can use it to build a very large structure in the village. So the cost of land here in urban area is very, very costly. So that's another reason. To buy land in urban area is not something you can just get easily. Many people earn little income that cannot meet their financial needs, let alone build a house. We have some people that are not jobless, but the money they earn as income is not enough to build any house. Some are living from hand to mouth. The amount they earn is just for them to feed themselves and if opportunity comes to clothe themselves. So thinking of building a house is not in their option. It's not in the list at all because of the little income they earn. So that's another reason why so many people do not own houses in Nigeria. Then what are the solutions to housing shortages? We have housing shortages in Lagos or in Nigeria. What are the solutions? One, the prices of building materials should be reduced. The prices of building materials should be what? It should be reduced. Yes, it's a suggestion, but those that are selling building materials will sell what they buy. So, but if the price really comes down, it will prefer a solution to housing shortages, as many people will be able to build houses. Next is housing loans for workers should be easily obtainable. Housing loans for workers should be easily obtainable. If workers could get a loan easily, it will help many people to have or build house in Nigeria. So if housing loan is easily obtainable for workers, it will help to provide solution to housing shortages. Next is building affordable houses by government at the local government level should be encouraged. Building affordable houses by government at the local government level should be encouraged. Although Lagos State government is doing its own best in ensuring that people own houses. But what we are saying here is at the local government level too, they should step up their game. They are doing the same thing, but if we can increase the housing unit they provide every year, it will help in provide solution to housing shortages. Next is people should be encouraged to make use of local materials. Some prefer to use foreign materials for their houses. And as such, if those materials are not available, they are not ready to build. Some really have money to that extent. But if you encourage the use of local materials, it will reduce or provide solution to housing shortages. Next is people should be encouraged to buy land in rural areas where it is cheaper. People should be encouraged to buy land in rural areas where it is cheaper. Most people do not want to go to rural areas. They prefer the urban places. And let me tell you, the urban we have now, it was like a rural area before, but people started settling there and make it how it is today. So if people move to the rural area and start building out there, it will really help. But many people prefer coming down to Lagos and city to build their houses. So we have come to the end of today's lesson. Until next time, next lesson. Uncle Popo says, keep on studying. Bye.